my people. And if you're watching live, taking a side on YouTube, or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. And welcome to another special edition of Botch Bots and Chair Shots, because me and Sean are bringing back the Indie Wrestling Gazette. And joining us today, ladies and gentlemen, he is the unpinned CCW heavyweight champion. Most importantly, though, it is day 270 of 2023. And he still has an open invitation for Bob Vance of Vance Refrigeration to get his ass kicked. The man doing the ass kicking, ladies and gentlemen, the Violent Gentlemen Miles Blackwell. Miles, how are you, my friend?
Fantastic as always. It's always good when you're the champ, you know what I mean?
Life's good. You can't go wrong when you're the best, right?
I've got no complaints.
Absolutely. Joining me tonight, I have to do this because it's not the boss bitch this evening. It's joining me perched upon something that isn't the boss bitch's corner, because I don't know what I'm going to call it yet for you, Sean. But it's my boy Alpha Wolf, Sean Bean from the Table Spot. Sean, welcome to the show, bud. How are you?
I'm good. You can call it the Wolf's Den if you like. You know?
The Wolf's Den. See, that's it.
Yeah.
That was quick, too. You got that wit. You just came with it that fast. So this is the first edition. We're going to talk about wrestling. We're going to kind of talk about indie wrestling specifically. Miles, we're going to talk about your reign and having the strap and everything that goes into, you know, what it means to be the champ. But first and foremost, my friend, I have to put you on blast. Let's talk onions. So I saw on the interwebs, as it were, and the missus put you a little bit on blast. She said, "My husband cheats at caramelizing onions." Sir, I'm gonna, as both a chef and you know, I fancy myself a wrestling journalist and a food connoisseur, but what were you doing with the onions, my friend?
Okay, so first of all, let's get something clear. On Sunday, I properly caramelized about 6 onions because I was making a dish, and you know, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. It's muhadara or something of that sort. It's a Lebanese dish with lentils and rice and onions and all that tackle. And I made those and cutting up the onions. You know, I understand there's a whole tomato sauce and tomatoes gets the smell off your hands. Didn't work for me. Later that evening, we did a maternity photo shoot, and often in that shoot, I had to put my hands on her face. That didn't go over so well. So anyways, having said that, today I was cooking a really quick struggle meal, which was a grilled cheese with some caramelized onions, and giving that when I did them Sunday, I did them properly, taking about 45 to 50 minutes for that. I didn't have that kind of time today, so I did sprinkle a little bit of sugar in there just to speed up the process. And I don't know what possessed her to think that that was okay to put me on blast, as you say, about the onions, but she did it. So here we are. And now I'm explaining onions on a wrestling podcast.
I love it. That's what I hear. You know me. I'm going to ask some bizarre questions. I recently caramelized onions for a birthday party. We did a picnic. And I jokingly said when I was making them, I was like, I'm going to spend more time caramelizing these damn onions than I do building all the sandwiches for the 15 people for the party or whatever we were doing. And it's absolutely right. I spent more time caramelizing onions than anything. You cooking a lot at the house these days for the missus?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've always, you know, been pretty good in the kitchen. You know, it's not something that I post about too much, because I do have quite a few people who are legitimate chefs, such as yourself, that I follow and follow me and so on and so forth. So, you know, I like to step on a lot of toes, but not in the cooking world. You know what I mean?
All right. One final food question, and then we'll actually get to the business. What's your favorite food?
Oh, pizza, man. Hands down.
I like it.
I recently moved from California to Las Vegas, and I thought, you know, obviously New York in that area has the pizza capital or whatever, but I found a lot of good pizza places out here in Vegas, more than California, and I'm just really enjoying it.
Cool, man. I mean,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
You know, a lot of people do talk about New York and all that, but New Haven and Trenton, New Jersey, to me, have the best pizza in the game, without a doubt, man. It's thinner, it's crispier, you know, and I'm a purist when it comes to that. I'm just, you know, sauce, cheese, and basil, maybe a little bit of olive oil and salt and all that. But I'm not putting all these extravagant things on my pizza. I'm all about the classic things done perfectly. And those are two cities and styles of pizza that actually have it down to a science.
Sammy's in the house. What's up, Sammy? Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, Sammy.
So let's kind of dive into some indie wrestling here, Miles. CCW, you're in the Jacksonville area. You're the current reigning unpinned champion. Okay, over the last 2 years, you've gone from being the unpinned Southern States champion to being the unpinned, Miles two belts to being where you're at now. So let's kind of start there looking at it. What's the biggest change you've seen in CCW over the last, say, year and a half? Since 2 years since you and our paths first crossed. Let's start there with a big open-ended question.
Yeah, I would say the biggest change is the level of respect that I'm getting. Coming in as a new lad. I've said this before on other podcasts that when I showed up, I had this vision, this outlook that I'm going to be the top lad here. Without a doubt. It's just I just need to be given that shot, given that chance, and I think that after a couple of years, if anything, I'm a workhorse, you know what I mean? And I'm going to see of course, I'm not getting pinned, but I'm going to see the things that I could have done better, and I'm going to go work on those things. And, I always tell people that the violent gentleman is a definition of duality is, I'm violent with my strikes, but, a gentleman, especially a British one, wrestling, uses that catch style of wrestling. And that's something that I've worked on more than anything in the last year and a half. And it's shown for it in the multiple ways that I incapacitate my opponents in the ring.
And so obviously when they put the top belt on you, it had to feel good, right? It's like, because the company believes in you as their top guy. So I just want to get your feeling on like how it felt to pick up that world championship.
It was great to a degree. I mean, I absolutely was like, all right, this is it. This is a moment. But at the same time, I was like, finally, it's about time. This should have happened a long time ago. And it is funny to me that, that when I won the Southern States title, the same person I beat for that title is the same person I beat for the World Heavyweight title, which is, I guess you could call him my nemesis, my lifelong enemy, Bryce Maddox. So
he's
it
on
was
the
just.
list.
I'm sure he's on the list. Absolutely. It was one of those things that, okay, I'm just beating him for something bigger and shinier. But, it's the same recipe, the same outcome.
So having gone as long as you have and had the success you have in CCW, there has to be a target on your back at some point, or that it has to feel like there is, because everybody's kind of gunning to be the guy. And now that you're him, you're the guy. What's it like going out there every week knowing that you've got a target on your back and everybody in that CCW locker room is gunning for you?
I think really, to be honest with you, it's no different because, I'm a firm believer of, yes, a title is a wonderful thing to have, but the man makes the title. And I was the man before I got the title, whichever one I had, at a given time. But I've had people come up to me after shows and say, I'm coming for your title next. It's a competitive environment, but my response, being who I am, was you can't go 5 minutes. And it's not that I'm that great, which I am, but it's you don't have the cardio, you don't have the tools to go 5, 10, 15 minutes with me. And I'm telling you right now, if you're going to beat me, you're going to need a pack of lunch, because it's going to be an all-day thing. So I think I put it out there enough where people know that, if I'm going to step in a ring with Blackwell, I better have my A game ready. You know what I mean?
What's up, Faction Cast? What's up, Shadow? He's at a hockey rink. Reception is bad. He says, hey, Miles. Malik's in the house. Thanks for stopping by, everybody, and saying what's up. So looking at that locker room, what has that evolution been like for you? Because and a lot of times you hear people, especially sitting in my seat doing the interviews I've interviewed, I've heard guys talk about going from being the young green guy in the locker room to being at, the top of it. How's it been for you personally to be that evolution, to go from the guy going, hey, will you watch my tape, to people coming to you going, hey, will you watch my tape now? You know what I mean? What's that process been like for you going through that?
I think the first time it happened, I was actually surprised. Someone reached out to me and said, hey, have you seen my match this week? What are some things that you think I could do better? And I actually, just to kind of blur the lines between kayfabe and shoot, I had, a conversation with a good bit of the lads that work at CCW and, about presenting yourself as a professional wrestler. I'm not here to play professional wrestler. This is not, I get it. We got Halloween coming up and that, but I'm not dressing up the other 11 months as a wrestler. am I allowed to curse?
You can say whatever you want, sir. Always.
I am a fucking professional wrestler, man. And so I had a conversation about that and about, knowing who you are in the ring and outside the ring and the way you carry yourself and all that. And actually had a handful of lads reach out to me over the last week. Can you watch my match? Can you tell me what I need to work on? And, for me, that was a feel-good thing because, like you said, showing up as a new guy, new in the industry, new in the business, and being the guy to ask people to help me out. And now I'm being asked, I think it's one of those things that it's like when you lose a lot of weight and you didn't notice it until you see old pictures or someone else brings it up to you because you're around yourself every day.
Right. And I really like that. And I'm definitely, I love that. It's advice to me that what you just said, because I take what we're doing here seriously as well. And like, I want to do this. I love podcasting. I love being in wrestling journalism per se. You know what I mean? And last month I met Sam Roberts and asked him a bunch of questions like, how can I, perfect my craft and all that? Because I don't want to play dress up. I want to, be as professional as I can. So like just you saying that in the wrestling term as well is so much advice to me and many others, I'm sure. So
awesome. That's my good deed for the day. Maybe it cancels out the whole onion debacle.
See, I'll let it slide this once. So you brought him up earlier. I'm going to bring him up now. For every Superman, there's a Lex Luger. For every Lex Luger, there's a Superman. For every Violent Gentleman, there's a Bryce fucking Maddox. You guys have crossed paths more than a few times. You guys have, between Twitter, between, all the other social media posts and between, CCW, you guys are always clashing. What's it like coming up with Bryce and being able to have that comfortability factor because you have that Lex Luger to his Superman kind of approach to it, knowing that for every Violent Gentleman, there's always going to be a Bryce Maddox?
It was one of those things that, when I was eating the aforementioned fake caramelized onions, my missus and I were watching an episode of Family Guy, and he had mentioned about, without the devil, God would be bored out of his mind. And I like to think that I keep Bryce entertained a bit, give him something to gun for. And part of it is because I am, as I have eloquently said on a different podcast, I'm the anti-Bryce. Everything that he is, he's an all-American athlete. He's going to slap high fives. He's going to take pictures. He's going to sign autographs. I won't do any of that. I really hate saying it like this, but he's John Cena. You call it what it is, man. He's Blue Eye. He's John Cena, and I'm that 2010, 2011 CM Punk. I work hard. I'm not a body guy. Some will call me skinny fat, and that's fine. But like Tyson Fury says, nobody's got muscles on their chin. So when you give them one of these, we're all just humans at that point.
Sean, you got anything for him before I keep rolling?
Oh no, I really like that. It's I really like the term anti-Bryce too. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting a shirt made of that because anytime I mention it, that kind of gets a good little reaction. So it's a good way to put some money in my pocket. You know what I mean?
As somebody who's followed both of you, like I like it. And it's funny to me too, because I guess it says what you can about my personality too, that I would, go the direction of the heel in this situation and the baby face, but that's neither here nor there. Let's look at your cardio. You post a lot on your Twitter that when you do cardio, you watch matches. Two-part question. One, why do you pick a different wrestling match every day? Does it go into the mood for the day, the flow for the day, how far you want to work, how long you're going to work out? And two, what was the last match you watched?
Typically the criteria for what I pick is Sometimes it's what I want to work on. If I'm really into the chain wrestling, thinking about that, I'll pull up some of Nigel's old Ring of Honor stuff. Sometimes it's if a match just came out and it's one of those, hey, you've got to see this match, man. Some of the ones from Wembley that just happened last month. And then, the last one I watched was it was an old one of Pete Dunne versus Zack Sabre Jr. That was this morning or this afternoon. I forget what time I went to the gym. And it was amazing. It was amazing. It was for some other promotion, and forgive me for not remembering. A lot of times I'll just go to YouTube and type in Pete Dunne versus search, Nigel McGuinness versus search. And it's just, I just watch mainly the ones who are the people who I've modeled my in-ring style after. Those are my in-ring inspirations. So typically, Nigel, Pete Dunne, Regal, CM Punk, some of Tommy End's old stuff, Malachi Black when he was, over in Europe and that.
Speaking on the British independent scene, let's dive into that for just a second, because with All In being there, wrestling popped. You see Will Ospreay and Rev Pro. He just left. So that was, that's a huge talking point for the indie wrestling scene. Impact's heading to England. They're booking indie wrestlers from the British scene. You've got guys like Shady Nattrace, who's been there for 20, million years, tearing up the indie scene. What's it like for you being on this side of the pond, seeing the boys back home be as successful as they are right now?
Oh man, it's great. Am I sounding, a bit partial when I say this? I think British wrestling is, superior because it is wrestling. Yes, it evolved in some cases to like British strong style and things of that nature. But, even the crowds themselves are fantastic. So for the United States to see that and start sending, their talent over there, it's great, man. And what it does is it opens up doors for either side just to make things. Let me try to explain that differently. There's a lot of people that haven't seen British wrestling other than NXT UK. And don't get me wrong, NXT UK was fantastic, but outside of that, a lot of people weren't familiar. So to see them get familiar is great. So yeah, there's a sense of pride for me to see, my fellow countrymen, getting their flowers and their just due after quite some time.
Absolutely. What's up, Coach Ron? Jax, thanks for stopping by, seeing you guys in the chat. So this is kind of this is out of the realm of indie wrestling. I'm curious for your take on it, though. There's been multiple reports now coming out on the Wembley show about the attendance. Tony Khan announced one thing, then the Turnstile said another. Now a third report's coming out that it was even higher than Tony Khan's original report. What do you think about the mess? You got any input on it?
Yeah, I think Will Ospreay got that tattoo a little bit too soon. Yeah,
looks like it. Yes.
Look, man. I mean, at the end of the day, no matter how big the scale is, wrestling promoters are wrestling promoters, right? So my missus and I got a little joke where I'm 6 feet tall until I started wrestling, and I think through compression and knee injuries and all that, I'm down to a good 5'11". 5'11 and a half, and she will not let me live that down. You're not 6 foot anymore. And, for women thinking about lads, the difference between 5'11 and 6 feet tall are, typically a foot and a half, even though it's it's an inch. Having said that, at the end of the day, it just gives people something to talk about, but let's not lose sight of the fact that it was an amazing show with amazing wrestling. And, again, me being partial, but UK crowds are the absolute best. The singing, if you watch Old Progress, the singing and the chanting and the cheering is fantastic, man. It fuels me because they're into it.
All right, let's hop on this side of the pond a little bit. As we get into the fall, the American football, Thursday night, Saturday night, Sundays, it's all over the place. Wrestling historically always takes kind of that backseat in the ratings a lot. And they say it's the down season for pro wrestling, at least on TV. My question for you, Miles, is on the indie scene, let's say in that panhandle of Florida, is there a down season for you guys the same way there is for for a WWE or an AEW? Do you guys start to slow down as it comes into the fall?
Yes and no. It just depends on, our biggest show of the year is typically in the end of August. And, if you can ride that wave but not get comfortable, it's all about how you promote. Having said that, CCW, as Mr. Ginger.
That's Jacksbo. He's from
Jacksonville, there we go.
Jacksonville, actually.
All right, great, because he's going to appreciate this. Yes, CCW as in Jacksonville. We would be absolutely stupid to book a show the same day as the Georgia versus Florida football game because everything shuts down, man. I mean, I'm talking, when we would typically at some of our live events pull, 300 to 500 people, if we were to book it on that day, 50, 60, it's definitely be taking a bath on the money situation.
So those are the inevitable shows, though. Everybody's as unlucky as it can be. Not everybody, like you said earlier, not everybody is John Cena. Not everybody's The Undertaker. Not everybody is going to draw 20,000 seat arenas. They're not going to put an ass every 12 inches. Do you look out that curtain and see a 50-person crowd? Do you look out that curtain and see a 500-person crowd? And do you look at them differently? Or do you go out there and I'm going to be Miles Blackwell, whether there's 50 people or whether there's 500 people?
The way I look at it is I look out the curtain as I emerge from the locker room. It's how many of these people are going to be upset once this thing's over, because the outcome is not determined by the size of the crowd. Blackwell is going to Blackwell no matter what, and that's going to be whether it's a 5-minute match or a 30-minute match. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to upset some people. I'm going to win by hook or by crook, mostly by crook, it seems. And that's it. We've actually had this bloke has been showing up at shows, man. Different venues, which are 2 and 3 hours apart from each other. And he's in the front row and he's always screaming, and I give him hell, man. It's one of those, every time you cheer against me, it never works out for you. You should just give up. Start rooting for me, man. It's a lot less painful. So again, the size of the crowd doesn't determine the outcome. I'm still going to do what I do and, piss said people off in the process, no matter how many there are, 555, doesn't matter.
I love that outlook. Specifically, though, you mentioned you've got a venue here, and then you'll be a venue 3 hours away, and then you'll kind of go around that general area. When you go from market to market down there on that kind of that indie turnaround, and you're hitting the towns, are there differences from city to city? Because I know in Tennessee, if you wrestle in Nashville, the crowd is very different than, say, Knoxville or Memphis. The JCP fans had a very different outlook than, say, the Memphis fans do. Are there the skeletons left of the territories where the northern Florida, almost into the GCW stuff, do you still get a lot of that good southern wrestling where, it's easier to get them to hate you than it is to love you?
What I've come to say seems to be, probably one of the worst towns is Palatka, Florida. Their big claim to fame is, Michelle McCool is from there. Okay, great. Nothing on her, but it's not 2004 anymore. You know what I mean? But some of those crowds have been not as receptive, and I don't mean that they don't cheer for me, because I don't need that, but they're not as into it. Jacksonville is normally hot. Fernandina Beach, amazing crowd. They wouldn't even let me speak. When I came out there, just the microphone was handed to me and they wouldn't even let me speak. That was amazing. It's like, you guys, I don't even have to cut a promo because you're not even letting me talk. This is great. So Fernandina and Jacksonville, amazing crowds. Palatka, not so much. Those are some of the main ones. Lake City's, give or take. Last time we were there, a massive storm came through and about 60 of the pre-sold tickets didn't show up. So, I mean,
that's a big hit.
Yeah.
So you talk about getting that mic, and when you're holding the stick and they won't let you talk, we see a lot of that now with somebody like a Dominic Mysterio. Like, what's that feel like to know you're doing your job so well that you literally can't get a word in edgewise?
Oh, it's great, man. Again, props to Dominic Mysterio. because he's got real heat, man. You know what I mean? And there's always that whole talk about heat. So heat, heat. And I've shared locker rooms with people that think that heat is saying, a little witty one-liner, or is talking about someone's mom or someone's drug problem and all that. And these are the ones, whether you like them or not, who subscribe to the Bully Ray theory. And, to me, just honestly, I'm not a big fan of that one. But yeah, Dominic's got real heat. And, if you are a heel, especially a chicken shit heel, man, that's what people want to hate. You know what I mean? You don't want that, MJF and his heel run, people loved him. It's like, yeah, you're a heel, you're a bad guy, but people love you. They're here to see what you're going to say next. So Dominic Mysterio, absolutely. That old bit with Elias and Kevin Owens, when they were taking a dump on Seattle, talking about a basketball team, like that's the real stuff, man. That's old school heat. That's beautiful.
And that's what I seem to like go towards more, is like the real heel heat more than the cheap. I'm gonna get the cheap pop heat for blah blah blah. The ones that are like, you pretty much have like go away heat, right? Where it's just like you can't. They don't let you speak at all. They just want you to go away and props to Dom for doing that. Like in this kind of generation where, so it must to get that kind of reaction must feel like fucking amazing for you, right? It's just like I'm getting this big reaction whether they like me or hate me, right? So
yeah, correct, man. It's the best. And I'll be honest with you, when we did the Fernandina show, it was almost a year ago, and again, the person I was supposed to face actually had trouble with their travel and weren't able to make the show. And we were watching, they were watching the Jacksonville Jaguars in the playoffs, and the Jaguars had lost 3 minutes before I broke the curtain to go out there. And so when I finally did get to speak, yeah, I did a cheap thing, but it was so fresh that it upset them. I said something to the effect of, yeah, he's claiming travel issues, but he didn't want to show up because he knew he was going to lose, just like the Jacksonville Jaguars. And again, they had lost 3 minutes before I broke that curtain. And, that's when the place just went nuclear. And it was music to my ears, man. I realized I didn't have to say much anything else.
Tommy asked, was it at Sadler Ranch, or have you ever worked Sadler Ranch?
I don't know the name of the building. It was a rec center is what it was. This long, skinny rec center.
Nice. This guy, Jax, and Tommy both are from Jacksonville. So I've been trying to get them. That's why he asked if it was the same CCW in Jacksonville that I keep going, dude, you got to go check these guys out. It's literally in your backyard.
Yeah, I think he follows me on the Bird app.
The old Bird app. I can't call it X. Do you call it X?
It feels weird to say it. It says, "Oh yeah, that guy, he's on X."
Speaking of,
that means something totally different from my choice.
Correct.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Bird app and social media, how do you feel how it changed wrestling in this generation? And is it harder? You see it harder to be in kayfabe all the time with the social media and like people that are actually getting that genuine heat now still with social media going on? Like,
that's a fantastic question. I think that even when we're at the fact that even the Undertaker himself says, hey, you got to give him a little bit behind the curtain. I get that. I've had interactions with people on the Bird app who have never met me in person, but they follow me on there. And one of them actually sent me a DM. I was in Jacksonville traffic one day having a bloody meltdown, and I got a DM that said, hey, are you okay? I'll see you on, I think it was I-10. You're on I-10 freaking out. So yeah, that's me. Great. And then he said that his missus was like, look at that guy over there losing his mind. And he's like, that's not just some guy, that's Miles Blackwell. And so he gave me pretty much a therapy session through the DMs for me to calm down. He's like, breathe in, breathe out, smell the flower, blow out the candle, and so sometimes people do see the more human side of us, when I make posts about my missus and us, having a little one and all that. But I think that there's a market for that, and there's money to be made. That's why they got the Total Divas and all those wrestling shows that aren't really about wrestling anymore.
Since you brought it up, I wasn't going to go there, but since you brought it up, I'm going to ask anyways. As a father, it's the most cool, exciting thing you can do as a man. How excited are you about the baby getting here?
Oh, I'm very excited, man. Everyone's like, oh, it's going to be difficult. You're not going to sleep and all that. And I was like, I very rarely sleep anyways. I'm typically up at 5 a.m. anyways. I am going to post it, probably after this is over. But we had another ultrasound today. We're coming in that last trimester and that. And there's a 3D picture of him. And I swear on my mother's eyes, I'm not making this up. He's got his fist up. And it's, 3D is straight on. And he's, like, yeah, that's definitely my child. There's no DNA test needed. He's, he doesn't have the knuckles on or nothing like that. But he's got the hand up. And it's phenomenal like that. It's like, that's my boy. I'm already proud.
I wonder if we could find brass knuckles that would be with like a pacifier on the end of it.
So they make them. They make them, and they make teething rings and that.
Really? Oh, that's gonna happen. All the baby gentlemen brass knuckles.
Oh yeah. I'm actually going to. I think I'm gonna get him a onesie made like my singlet. It's not gonna be like a Josh Alexander situation, but pretty close to it.
Like I said, it's the coolest thing I've ever done was being a dad. I'll definitely say that. So let's go from something as completely humble and nice and wholesome as talking about having a baby to a very just vulgar question, Miles. What's your favorite British insult to an American fan? I've been wanting to ask this. I didn't ask the last time we were on air. And I asked you and some of the guys from across the pond on Twitter once I want you guys to, I'm bored with cussing people out in like American English. Give me a good British insult. Miles, what's your favorite British insult?
I mean, there's obviously, a lot of people like to mention wanker because things over in the States, it's not vulgar so much over here, but it's actually considered like the fourth most offensive British word. I'm always doing this, right? That's kind of my thing, the 2-finger salute. And, that's got the same bearing as giving somebody one of these. It's just the American audiences haven't picked up on it yet. Even so much so that there was a clip of me on the local news in Albany, Georgia, from like a little fair, had a wrestling match. And I was giving, the fans one of these. And just, my friends across the pond, GB, he's got his podcast. He was even just like, oh man, they're like, these guys are aggressive about peace, but it's vulgar. It's the same thing.
You'll have Tommy in the club giving the 2-finger salute to everybody now.
Hey, I'm all for it, man. There's one of the guys that I wrestle with. He's got a kid. He's like 14, 15 and that. And he said, me and all my classmates are always looking at each other doing this now. And the teacher's got no idea. They think it's the same thing as this. Or, hey, what's up? But
I'm here for it. 2-finger salutes for everybody. We're all violent gentlemen.
See, Will, one of our British friends we know, she always calls me an absolute bellend all the time when I rag on her. So
a bellend, a knob, same thing. Yeah. That one. A gobshite. That's one that gets used. Pillock is another one. Quite a few.
Yeah, Tommy, we'll talk about that. You smart ass. All right, Miles. That's it, man. I'm gonna let you off the hook. But before I do so, I want you to be able to plug your stuff. Tell everybody where to find you, what's going on with CCW, any new shows you guys have coming up, anything like that.
Okay, you can find me on the Bird app at VG_Blackwell. VG for Violent Gentlemen, at VG_Blackwell. That's the only social media I have. So if you see me on something else, it's not me. So if I'm like, hey, I hope you're a fan of me, send me $20. That's not me. But if you want to send me $20, I've got my tips on the Bird app. I've got a tape in October 14th. The next big, huge event for CCW is the Stampede, which is a 20-man over-the-top battle royal. Winner gets $10,000 and a shot at me at the end of the night. either way, it's going to be the same outcome. I'm walking in with the gold. I'm walking out with the gold. So spoiler alert, I'm not getting pinned just because it doesn't happen.
Excellent. Well, Miles, man, I appreciate you stopping by and giving us a little bit of your evening. Tommy wants to know, is it in Jacksonville?
As of right now, they don't have a venue for that. It's typically the taping is at our studio, which is kind of like a little NWA setup. You know, it's only got about 30, 40 seats, and that actually sells out pretty quick. So if you go to ccwrestling.biz, you'll be able to order the tickets online and show up for that. But yeah, like I said, it's a studio taping, and then I'm sure we'll have a few more shows up until Stampede, and that typically runs in January.
One more question. Sorry, is it streaming anywhere so someone like me in Vegas can watch it online or?
Yeah, they've got a YouTube channel. Again, if you just look up CCW Wrestling, I mean, there's lots of CCWs across the nation and even in Florida. But we're the oldest one with those initials, and it's Continental Championship Wrestling. You know, if you go and watch it from the most recent to all the way back, it'll be like watching Evolution in reverse if you're watching my wrestling matches. So I don't suggest really watching anything before 2021 or 2022. Oh, I mean, I'll give it to you right back, man. You know, you wouldn't be the first person to even swing at me over the guardrail before, because I've had that happen. So I look forward to it.
Hell yeah. All right, Miles. Well, I'm going to let you off the hook, man. Like I said, enjoy the rest of your night. I appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat about some wrestling with us, brother.
Awesome. Always a pleasure. Anytime.
All right, man. Enjoy the rest of your night, sir.
Thank you.
Let me get this sorted out. Now that we knocked that section out, let's get into some finer things, talk about the future of the show, Sean, talk about the direction we want to take it. First and foremost, as always, I want to say thank you to Miles for coming on, stopping in, chatting with us about everything, seeing him, what was going on with CCW and all of that. But Sean, this is for us now. What do you want to do with the IWG, brother? What do we want to do with it? What direction we want to take it? What do we want to talk about? Who do we want to talk to? What do we want to do with it?
I mean, we can only take it up from here. You know what I mean? We could just make it a giant, beast. Keep doing interviews, keep getting who we can, keep moving on up, and hopefully, make some moves in the wrestling scene, indie wrestling scene. You know what I mean?
Get some indie moves. People in the chat that's still here with us. Is there anything you guys want to see from us as far as indie wrestling goes? Territories you want to see us cover, wrestlers you want to try to see us interview, anything like that you guys got? That was awkward. I don't know why I expected instant gratification there. Like they were just going to respond to me. The debut of Titty Bear Tommy. That's Titty Bar Tommy, dude. I changed your name in my phone, bro. You are now Titty Bar Tommy. That is official.
Hey, remember, Tommy, I live in Vegas, so we can make it happen.
Dude, he's one of the premier DJs in Jacksonville for the men, or the adult entertainment industry, the gentlemen's clubs, as it were. I like that. Miles is a great dude. Having a chance to talk to him about awesome. CCW Continental Championship Wrestling based out of Jacksonville. When you and I were talking about before you come on, when we interview indie wrestlers, like specifically, sometimes it's hard because you don't necessarily, like for me, I know Miles. I've been covering Miles for 2 years. When you were coming into it, like, what's your approach? Like, how do you do it? Like, what do you do when you're just like, fuck, I don't know anything about this guy? Like, what do you do? Are you a go by the seat of your pants person? Are you trying to do research? Like, what are you up to with it?
Yeah, I try to do as much, research as I can, obviously, but I just got, the info today, obviously, but so
yeah, that's on me.
Well, it's all good. But I do like to, ask questions and then see their answers, and then I'll go, like, when you ask questions, I will go off what they said in the answers, and okay, so da 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 da, and how did was da 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 da, you know what I mean? So that's absolutely how I was taught that's how I was taught in when I was doing radio and news production and the journalism realm in college. So that kind of like was home for me. What I was doing in this interview was just like, you ask the questions and I'll do the follow up, and you know what I mean. So, which I felt good when he said I asked a fantastic question. So like, about the social media and stuff. So, it felt good, So, I, just asking questions and follow ups and getting the answers that will hit home, So.
Hell yeah. That's it, man. Sean, look, this was a hell of a first episode. I think we did good. We got a great interview in.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of chatted a little bit. We started brainstorming. Next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be back with the IWG. But tell these fine folks on Rivet City Radio where they can find you and what you got going on.
Well, next Wednesday, if things go right, I should have somewhat of my studio up and ready in my new house. So it'll look fantastic. And you can find me next Wednesday on the IWG, same time, same channel. You can find me Sunday nights on Rivet City Radio, Table Spot, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you can find me at the Alpha Wolf Sean B on TikTok. Click my link and buy my merch. Go to my Instagram, the Alpha Wolf Sean B 2.0, and follow that as well. And the rest of the stuff in my link tree or whatever the fuck it is. That's where you can find me.
For the housekeeping stuff, those of you in the chat, check the links in the description. You want to hang out in the Discord, get all the direct links to me, to the other Rivet City Radio and Off the Top host. Check that out. If you're really into it, check out angleeliminate.com. Botch bots and share shots. That's where all the sweet merch is. You want one of these, you want a t-shirt, all that cool shit, fucking check it out. They're there. If you have Amazon Prime, this is super important. You have a free Prime gaming subscription. Go to Twitch, register your Prime, use it for free. If you don't, Jeff Bezos gets that money back, and he's got too much fucking money. Give it to us. Give it to the Wrestle Talk Wolfpack, Creation World, Off the Top Media, Rivet City Radio, any of my friends, just as long as Jeff Bezos doesn't do it. If the most important thing that keeps our lights on is patreon.com/Rivet City Radio. You get all the sweet ad-free content, Botchbots After Dark, the Hill Support Group with Max and Colby, the Raw Rewind, the My GM Mode with Scowls and Jamie. Sorry for the interruption. All of that sweet ass shit over on Patreon. But that's it, Sean. You guys got it? You got anything else for the class?
I'll see you next week. Same IWG network, same IWG channel.
But now, as we close another episode of the Indie Wrestling Gazette, I want to take a minute. Thank you for listening. Remind you to go wherever you do anything on the internet. Like, follow, subscribe, unsubscribe, then subscribe again. Leave a comment telling me how ugly I am or how beautiful Sean looks eating Five Guys. Either way, it helps the algorithm. It helps find new listeners. If you're feeling really generous to be one of the VIP people, head over to patreon.com and donate to the Rivet City Radio Podcast Network. You get some fantastic swag. Sean gets all the fucking cheeseburgers he can get. It's a win-win for my boy, the Alpha Wolf Sean Bean. I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people. Fucking forgot where the video was.